Major James Mattis looked up at the stars through the reinforced glass dome of the Mars Colony observation deck. Earth glowed like a blue marble in the distance. 20 years of military service had not prepared him for this assignment. Liaison between the Marine Corps and NASA's Deep Space Monitoring Program. "Sir, we're picking up something unusual," said Lieutenant Eric Mason, his eyes fixed on the monitor. "Object approaching from beyond Jupiter's orbit, speed unlike anything in our database." Mattis moved quickly to the console. The blip on the radar moved in ways no human spacecraft could. "How long until it reaches Earth?" "At current speed, less than 6 hours, sir." "Alert, Command. I want all deep space telescopes focused on that object." Within minutes, the images came through. The vessel was sleek, with an iridescent hull that seemed to shift colors as it moved. "Definitely not human technology." "First contact," Mattis whispered. Humanity had wondered for centuries if they were alone in the universe. Now they had their answer. President Allison Clark called an emergency meeting in the White House Situation Room. Mattis joined via secure video link from Mars. "What are our options?" the president asked, her face tense but composed. General Howard, chairman of the Joint Chiefs, spoke first. "We should scramble jets, ready our missile defense systems." "And send what message?" Mattis countered. "That we're hostile? These beings crossed interstellar space. If they wanted to destroy us, they could do it without coming this close." "What do you suggest, Major?" President Clark asked. "We attempt communication. We show them we're intelligent and peaceful but not weak." The president nodded. "Make it happen." The alien ship slowed as it approached Earth, taking position in high orbit. No weapons were detected, but its sensors scanned the planet thoroughly. Then came the transmission. It appeared simultaneously on all broadcast channels worldwide. A humanoid figure with pale blue skin and large black eyes. When it spoke, its words were translated into all major Earth languages. "Greetings, humans. I am Ambassador Zulvex of the Galactic Council, representing 17 civilizations across this sector of the galaxy. We have observed your development for decades. The time has come for formal assessment." News of the alien contact spread across Earth and its colonies. Some people celebrated, others panicked and prepared for the worst. Churches filled with the faithful, while bars filled with those seeking liquid courage. Mattis requested immediate transport back to Earth. During the 3-day journey, the Galactic Council ship maintained its position, occasionally sending educational broadcasts about their civilization, but making no hostile moves. Upon his arrival, Mattis was immediately taken to NASA headquarters, where a response team had been assembled. "What do we know about them?" he asked Dr. Olivia Grant, the lead xenobiologist. "From their broadcasts, they appear to be a federation of species that achieved interstellar travel thousands of years ago. They claim to evaluate emerging civilizations for potential membership." "And if we fail their evaluation?" Dr. Grant hesitated. "They haven't specified." A week after first contact, disaster struck. A smaller council vessel descended into Earth's atmosphere, apparently on an observation mission, when it experienced a catastrophic system failure. The ship crashed in rural Wyoming, killing 2 of the 4 aliens on board. Mattis led the recovery team. When they reached the crash site, they found the surviving aliens injured but alive. They brought them to a secure medical facility, trying their best to treat beings whose biology they barely understood. "We need to stabilize this one," Mattis ordered, pointing to the alien who seemed most severely injured, "and get our best linguist working with the conscious one." For 3 days, they worked to save the aliens while attempting communication. The conscious alien, whose name translated roughly as Krell, seemed wary but cooperative. Unknown to Mattis, Ambassador Zulvex was receiving edited footage of the recovery operation. The Council's AI translators, working with limited understanding of human language and context, mistranslated many of the medical team's urgent commands as threats. What humans saw as emergency medical intervention, the Council interpreted as invasive experimentation. "This confirms my suspicions," Zulvex told the Council during an emergency session. "These humans are too aggressive, too unpredictable to join our collective. They captured and tortured our observers." 11 days after first contact, the Council ship broadcast its verdict to Earth. People of Earth, Ambassador Zolvex announced, his tone notably colder than in previous communications. The Galactic Council has concluded its assessment. Humanity has been deemed a Class 5 aggressive species, unfit for integration. You are hereby ordered to surrender all military assets and submit to Council oversight within 30 Earth days. Refusal will result in containment measures. Containment measures? President Clark asked during the emergency meeting that followed. What does that mean? Admiral Patricia Rivera, Director of National Intelligence, looked grim. Based on partial data we've gathered from their broadcasts, it likely means forced regression of our technology, possibly orbital bombardment of military installations. They're declaring war because we tried to save their people? General Howard slammed his fist on the table. There's been a misunderstanding, Mattis said. The alien we treated, Krell, was cooperative. He seemed grateful. Can we communicate with him again? The president asked. The Council ship retrieved both survivors yesterday. They've cut off all direct communication except for their ultimatum. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity had dreamed of first contact for generations, but no one had imagined it would immediately lead to an extinction-level threat. What are our chances if we fight? President Clark finally asked. General Howard shook his head. Their technology is centuries beyond ours. Our best weapons would be like throwing rocks at a stealth bomber. So we surrender? Secretary of State William Jones asked. Become what? Their slaves, their zoo exhibits? No, Mattis said firmly, standing up. We fight, but not conventionally. All eyes turned to him. These beings have technology we can't match, but they've never faced humans before. We're adaptable, resourceful, and we've been fighting against superior forces throughout our history. Mattis walked to the digital display and brought up images of the alien ship. From what we've observed, the Council relies on overwhelming technological superiority. They've likely never faced an enemy that uses deception, guerrilla tactics, or asymmetric warfare. They expect us to either surrender or launch a direct attack, which would fail. What do you propose, Major? The President asked. Give me command of a special task force. Let me choose my people. We need to understand their weaknesses, capture some of their technology, and turn it against them. That's a huge gamble with humanity's survival, Secretary Jones warned. Mattis looked each person in the room in the eye. The Council has already decided our fate. They don't want partners, they want subjects. I believe we can show them that humanity deserves respect, not containment. But we have to act now, while they still think we're no threat. President Clark was silent for a long moment. Finally, she nodded. You have authorization, Major Mattis. As of this moment, you're promoted to Colonel and given command of Earth's 1st Interstellar Defense Force. God help us all. As the meeting adjourned, Mattis looked once more at the image of the Council ship hovering above Earth. The aliens had made a critical mistake. They had judged humanity by their technology, not their spirit, and they were about to learn why that was a serious error. Colonel James Mattis looked around the repurposed aircraft hangar at his new team. 5 days had passed since the Galactic Council's ultimatum. 25 days remained before their deadline. I've selected each of you because you think differently, Mattis said to the small group. We don't need conventional soldiers for this fight. We need people who can help us understand and outsmart an enemy with superior technology. Captain Samantha Reeves stepped forward first. With dark hair pulled back in a tight bun and alert eyes that missed nothing, she had been the Army's top linguist before this assignment. I've analyzed all Council broadcasts, she said. Their language patterns suggest a hierarchical society with rigid thinking. They struggle with metaphors and deception. Lieutenant Alan Jackson was next, barely 25 but already legendary for his engineering skills. He pushed his glasses up and gestured to a table covered with alien technology parts. I've been studying the debris from the crash site, he said. Their tech is advanced but follows logical principles. I think I can reverse engineer some of it, especially their communication systems. Dr. Olivia Grant, the xenobiologist who had helped treat the injured aliens, showed scans of the Council species. They evolved on a world with few predators, she explained. Their sensory systems are highly developed, but they have slow reaction times compared to humans. They've never needed to fight for survival like we have. Sergeant Frank Rodriguez, a Marine with keen eyes and a quiet voice, studied the images carefully. So they've never faced an enemy that hunts them, he said. That's an advantage for us. The final member of the core team was Lieutenant Commander Grace Williams, formerly NASA's top test pilot. She had flown everything from supersonic jets to experimental spacecraft. Their ships are fast but follow predictable flight patterns, she observed, reviewing footage of Council vessels. They fly like people who've never had to dodge bullets. Mattis nodded, pleased with his team. Our mission is clear. We need to buy Earth time and find the Council's weaknesses. We need their technology and intelligence on their military capabilities. For the next week, they worked around the clock. Lieutenant Jackson made the first breakthrough, creating a device that could track Council scout ships. They're watching us, he reported, showing Mattis a map of Earth with 12 blinking dots in orbit. Small vessels, probably gathering intelligence. Can we capture one? Mattis asked. Jackson hesitated. Maybe, if we could lure one low enough into the atmosphere. 3 days later, they set their trap. A remote facility in the Australian outback suddenly emitted radiation signatures similar to advanced weapons testing. As expected, a Council scout ship descended to investigate. Williams piloted their experimental craft, its hull modified with materials from the crash site to mask its signature. Rodriguez prepared the specially designed electromagnetic pulse weapon Jackson had created. Remember, we need the ship intact and at least one alien alive, Mattis reminded them through the comm system from their hidden base. The plan worked perfectly. The EMP disabled the scout ship without destroying it. Williams matched speed and trajectory, allowing Rodriguez and his team to board the alien vessel. Within minutes, they had secured the stunned pilot and were towing the ship to their secret underground facility. The alien pilot regained consciousness in a containment room designed to mimic Council environmental conditions. Captain Reeves attempted communication while Dr. Grant monitored the alien's vital signs. It's afraid, Grant noted. Heart rate equivalent is elevated. The alien, whose skin had a greenish tint unlike Zolvex's blue, watched them warily. Its large eyes blinked rapidly as it assessed its situation. Mattis entered the room slowly, hands visible. He remembered how the Council had misinterpreted their actions with the crash survivors. This time they had to establish trust. To everyone's surprise, the alien spoke first, its words translated through a device Jackson had built. You will gain nothing from this. The Council has decided your fate. We saved 2 of your people before, Mattis said calmly. We're not your enemy unless you make us one. The alien seemed confused. You tortured the crash survivors. We saw the images. Mattis shook his head. Those images were manipulated. We treated their injuries. They would have died otherwise. He gestured to Dr. Grant, who displayed the actual medical logs and unedited video of the rescue operation. The alien watched in silence. Finally, it spoke again. I am Krelvor, Scout Class Observer. If what you show is true, why would Ambassador Zolvex lie to the Council? Because some people fear what they don't understand, Mattis replied. We want to understand you, and we want you to understand us. Over the next 3 days, Krelvor gradually became more cooperative. They learned that the Council was not as united as it appeared. 6 of the 17 species had voted against the war, believing humans deserved a chance to join peacefully. Zolvex has long feared species like yours, Krelvor explained. Those that evolve through conflict rather than cooperation. We have both conflict and cooperation in our history, Mattis countered. That's why we're adaptable. Krelvor revealed critical information. The Council fleet was already on its way, planning to strike before the announced deadline. They expected humans to either surrender immediately or prepare a conventional defense. They have never faced an enemy that thinks like you, Krelvor admitted. Council military doctrine is based on overwhelming force, not strategy. With this knowledge, Mattis developed his plan, Using the scout ship's quantum communicator, he sent a message to the council members who had opposed the war, along with the unedited footage of the crash rescue. Meanwhile, Jackson worked with Williams to modify Earth's small fleet of spacecraft with the technology they'd learned from the scout ship. Rodriguez trained special forces in boarding tactics based on the ship's layout. Grant identified biological weaknesses in council species that could be exploited if necessary. President Clark visited their base to review their progress. The council fleet will arrive in 7 days, Mattis reported. 300 ships against our 27. Those are impossible odds, the president said grimly. They're counting on a conventional battle. Mattis replied with a hint of a smile. We're not going to give them one. He showed her the plan. It was risky, unconventional, and depended on perfect timing. But it might just work. We'll make it appear that we're gathering our forces for a last stand, he explained. But our actual defense will come from where they least expect it. The president studied the plans carefully. The fate of humanity depends on this, Colonel. I understand, Madam President, but humans have faced extinction before. We're still here because we don't fight the way our enemies expect us to. As the president left, Mattis looked at the star map showing the approaching council fleet. The aliens had technology, numbers, and firepower on their side. But humans had something the council had never encountered: the ability to think like predators, to use deception, and to turn an enemy's strength into a weakness. The battle for Earth was about to begin. The council fleet appeared in Earth's solar system like a swarm of metal insects. 300 ships of various sizes, their hulls shimmering with the same iridescent material as the first contact vessel. They moved with precision, spreading out to surround Earth from all sides. In the command center buried deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, Colonel Mattis watched the holographic display with his team. Right on time, he said calmly. And exactly where we predicted they would be. Captain, Reeves nodded. They're following standard council invasion protocol, just as Krelvor described. On the surface, Earth appeared to be mounting a conventional defense. 27 human spacecraft positioned themselves in a protective formation around the planet. They were Earth's best ships, but against the council fleet they looked like rowboats facing an armada of battleships. Admiral Zortek, commander of the council forces, observed the human defense from his flagship. He was a tall being with gray skin and 6 fingers on each hand, from a species known for their strategic thinking. Pathetic, he said to his officers. They position their entire fleet where we can see it. No deception, no reserves. His second-in-command, a blue-skinned being like Zulvex, seemed less certain. The intelligence from Ambassador Zulvex suggested humans are unpredictable. This seems too simple. They are primitive. Zortek dismissed the concern. They show their full strength to intimidate us, not realizing how outmatched they are. The Admiral gave the order to advance. The council fleet moved forward in perfect formation, bypassing the human ships which made no move to engage. They do not even fire, Zortek noted with growing contempt. Perhaps they have decided to surrender after all. As the council fleet crossed the orbit of Earth's moon, Mattis gave the signal. Now, Lieutenant Jackson activated the system he had developed from the captured scout ship technology. Throughout the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, hundreds of devices suddenly powered up. They had spent 2 weeks planting them, disguised as routine mining operations. Each device generated an energy signature identical to those used by council vessels for navigation. To the council fleet's sensors, it appeared as if the asteroids themselves were moving, closing in from behind. Admiral, a council sensor operator called out. Objects approaching from the asteroid belt. Impossible, Zortek snapped. There are no human ships there. On the display, hundreds of signals appeared, converging on the council fleet. At the same time, the apparent asteroids that had drifted near the council ships over the past hours suddenly revealed their true nature. Mines, shouted a council officer as the first explosions rippled through their fleet. Mattis had hidden nuclear devices inside hollowed-out asteroids, using the council's own technologies to mask their signatures. They detonated simultaneously, creating Electromagnetic pulses that disabled the nearest Council ships. Lieutenant Commander Williams, you're cleared to engage, Mattis ordered. Williams and her squadron had been hidden on the dark side of the moon. Now their ships, modified with stealth technology reverse-engineered from the scout vessel, streaked toward the confused Council fleet. Remember, hit and run only, Williams instructed her pilots. Don't try to fight them directly. Her squadron targeted engines and sensor arrays, then used Earth's gravity to perform slingshot maneuvers the Council pilots couldn't match. Their smaller, more agile ships danced around the Council vessels like mosquitoes around elephants, small but infuriating, and impossible to swat. In the command center, Sergeant Rodriguez monitored the battle. It's working, sir. We've disabled 27 Council ships and damaged 40 more. That still leaves over 200 functional, Mattis noted. Proceed with Phase 2. While the Council fleet struggled to regroup, Mattis launched his boldest move. 3 shuttles, each carrying a team of special forces trained by Rodriguez, approached the largest disabled Council ships. Using cutting tools designed by Jackson, they breached the hulls and boarded. Their mission was not to capture the ships, but to download tactical data and plant devices that would allow Jackson to hack into the Council's communication network. Admiral Zortek raged as reports of the ambush flooded in. How is this possible? They are primitives. Sir, his second-in-command said urgently, we've lost contact with the forward group, and our communications are being compromised. Impossible. Zortek slammed his 6-fingered hand down. No primitive species could penetrate our security. Launch planetary bombardment now. Council ships began firing energy weapons at Earth's surface. Cities would have been vaporized instantly, but the beams encountered an unexpected barrier. Shimmering shields similar to those used by Council ships now surrounded the planet. The shield won't hold for long, Jackson warned Mattis, monitoring power levels. Maybe 20 minutes at this intensity. It doesn't need to, Mattis replied. We just needed enough time for Phase 3. On the Council command ship, systems suddenly began shutting down. Displays flickered with a message in the Council's own language. You have been deceived. Using the data stolen during the boarding, Operations Jackson had created a virus that spread through the Council's communication network. It didn't destroy their systems but temporarily locked out their weapons. Get me a channel to Admiral Zortek, Mattis ordered. Zortek's angry face appeared on the command center's main screen. Who dares? Colonel James Mattis of Earth. I suggest you cease fire immediately. You are defeated, Zortek snarled, though his ship's weapons were currently useless. We will bombard your world until nothing remains. Before you continue this, mistake, Mattis said calmly. You should see this. He transmitted the unedited footage of the crashed ship rescue, along with Krelvor's testimony. Your Council was manipulated into this war through lies. We never sought conflict with you. Zortek's expression didn't change, but his second-in-command visibly reacted to the footage. Admiral, the second-in-command said, 6 Council species have just announced they are withdrawing support for this action. They're demanding verification of this evidence. Mattis pressed his advantage. Your fleet is damaged, your communications compromised, and your coalition fracturing. We have more surprises waiting if you continue, or we can discuss peace. Zortek's facial ridges darkened with rage. This changes nothing. We will... The transmission cut off as Zortek ended the communication. Moments later, the Council fleet resumed firing on Earth's shield. They're trying to bypass our virus, Jackson reported. Shield integrity at 40% and falling. Mattis nodded grimly. Initiate Phase 4. This was the part of the plan he had hoped to avoid. From hidden bunkers around Earth, missile silos opened. But these didn't contain ordinary nuclear weapons. They held devices created using Council technology, capable of generating localized singularities, artificial black holes that would exist for only seconds before collapsing. Target their command ship and the 10 largest vessels still firing, Mattis ordered. Avoid ships from the 6 species that oppose the war if possible. The missiles launched, streaking toward the Council fleet. Upon detonation, they didn't explode. They imploded, creating brief gravitational distortions that crushed portions of the targeted ships before dissipating. Sortek's command ship listed to one side, major sections crumpled like paper. Similar. Damage affected the other targeted vessels. The Council fleet's fire faltered, then stopped. A new transmission came through, not from Zortek, but from his second-in-command. "This is Acting Fleet Commander Ralven. I request a temporary cessation of hostilities to discuss terms." Mattis looked at his team. Their plan had worked, but the cost had been high. 3 major cities lay in ruins from the brief bombardment that penetrated the shield. Millions were dead or injured, yet humanity had survived its first interstellar battle. Against overwhelming odds, they had fought the Galactic Council to a standstill. "Open the channel," Mattis said. "Tell Commander Ralven we are willing to talk." The battle for Earth was over. The war for humanity's place in the galaxy had just begun. 3 months passed since the first battle for Earth. The ruins of Denver, Mumbai, and Seoul stood as grim reminders of how close humanity had come to extinction. But from the ashes, a new determination had risen. Colonel James Mattis, now promoted to general, stood aboard the EDF Resilience, Earth's first true warship. Built using salvaged Council technology, it represented humanity's rapid advancement under pressure. "Status report," Mattis requested, looking at the bridge crew. Lieutenant Alan Jackson, now head of Earth's Technological Adaptation Division, brought up a holographic display. "We've successfully reverse-engineered the Council's faster-than-light drive. This ship can now travel to any system within 50 light-years." Captain Samantha Reeves added, "Our network of Council defectors has grown. 6 species now openly question the war, and underground resistance movements have formed on 12 Council worlds. The ceasefire negotiated after the first battle had been tenuous from the start. Both sides used the time to regroup, but the Council, particularly the faction led by Ambassador Zulvex, had no intention of allowing peace. They were simply waiting to build a larger fleet." "Their plan hasn't changed," Mattis said, studying intelligence reports. "They still intend to eliminate us, just with more ships next time." Sergeant Rodriguez, recently promoted to major, pointed to sectors on the star map. "They're gathering their forces here, here, and here. Supply lines extend through these systems." Mattis looked at the map thoughtfully. "Then we change our strategy. Earth is too vulnerable to defend directly against their full force. We need to take the fight to them." He outlined his plan to Earth's Unified Defense Council that evening. It was audacious, even reckless by conventional standards. "Operation Hornet's Nest," he explained. "Instead of waiting for them to attack Earth again, we strike their supply lines and outposts throughout the sector." Admiral Rivera looked skeptical. "We have only 30 ships, even counting the new ones built with Council technology. They have thousands spread across their territory, which makes them overconfident and inflexible," Mattis countered. "We don't need to match their numbers. We need to be where they don't expect us, strike quickly, and disappear." President Clark, who had aged visibly since the war began, studied the plan carefully. "This is a significant escalation, General." "With respect, Madam President, they started this war. They intended our extinction. Our survival depends on showing them that humanity is not prey to be hunted at their convenience." After hours of debate, the Council approved the plan. Earth would take the fight to the stars. Over the next month, Mattis implemented Operation Hornet's Nest. Using stealth technology developed by Lieutenant Jackson, human ships raided Council outposts and supply depots throughout the sector. They never engaged in direct battles with larger Council forces, instead striking vulnerable targets and vanishing before reinforcements arrived. On the Resilience, Mattis reviewed the latest mission results with his team. The Council's military was designed to fight conventional wars against peer opponents, he noted. They don't know how to counter guerrilla tactics in space. Their ships are faster and more powerful, Lieutenant Commander Williams agreed. But their tactics are predictable. They always follow standard protocols, even when those protocols clearly aren't working. Dr. Grant had made breakthroughs in understanding the Council species biology. "I've identified specific weaknesses in each Council species," she reported. "Their environmental requirements, sensory limitations, even potential allergens. We can use this information to design better non-lethal weapons." Mattis nodded approvingly. I want options beyond just destroying their ships. Our goal is to end this war, not exterminate their species. The Council's response to human raids was predictable but concerning. They fortified key systems and began moving massive fleets toward Earth. The ceasefire was collapsing. Ambassador Zulvex addressed the Council's central governing body, his blue skin flushed darker with anger. These humans prove my point. They attack our territories unprovoked. We must crush them completely. But not all Council representatives were convinced. Krelvor, the pilot Mattis had captured and later released, had become a voice for peace within his own species. The humans attack military targets only, Krelvor argued. They avoid civilian casualties. Compare this to our bombardment of their cities, and they strike because we have not withdrawn our threat to their homeworld. Support for the war began to fracture along species lines. The military-focused species backed Zulvex's call for humanity's destruction. The more diplomatic species urged caution and further investigation into Zulvex's original claims. Meanwhile, Captain Reeves had established secure communication with Council dissidents who opposed the war. They formed an underground network that provided intelligence on Council movements and spread the truth about how the conflict began. Zulvex deliberately edited the footage from the crashed ship. One of Reeves's contacts revealed. He has feared human potential for decades. This war is his attempt to prevent humanity from ever joining the galactic community. Armed with this information, Mattis planned his most daring operation yet. Using the intelligence network Captain Reeves had built, he identified the location of Zulvex's personal archives, data that would prove his manipulation of evidence. This is our chance to end the war, Mattis told his team. If we can expose Zulvex's deception to the entire Council, the coalition against Earth will collapse. The mission would take them to Harmonex, the Council's capital world, deep in territory, controlled by species hostile to humans. It would require stealth, timing, and luck. Lieutenant Jackson developed special adaptive camouflage that could mimic Council ship signatures. Major Rodriguez trained a team of operatives in Council customs and movement patterns. Lieutenant Commander Williams plotted a course that would avoid major patrol routes. This is a volunteer mission only, Mattis told the assembled crew. The chances of success are low, and we may not return. Every member of his core team stepped forward immediately. Others followed until the entire crew had volunteered. The Resilience departed Earth under the cover of a meteor shower, its signature masked by Jackson's technology. They would make 5 faster-than-light jumps, each bringing them closer to the heart of Council space. As Earth vanished from view, replaced by the streaking stars of FTL travel, Mattis thought about how far humanity had come. 3 months ago, they had been fighting for survival on their homeworld. Now they were taking the fight to the enemy's doorstep. Council military doctrine had no concept for what humans were doing. Their histories contained no examples of an inferior force striking deep into the territory of a superior one. Their strategic planning never accounted for an enemy that refused to follow the expected rules of engagement. The Resilience emerged from its first jump at the edge of a red dwarf system. They would wait here for 12 hours, allowing their drive to cool while scanning for Council patrols. 4 more jumps to Harmonex, Williams reported. If we maintain stealth, we should arrive undetected. Mattis nodded, looking at the star map showing their path to the Council capital. The most dangerous mission of the war lay ahead, but also the greatest opportunity to end the conflict. The Council thought we would be easy prey, he told his crew. They're about to discover that humans are the most dangerous hunters in the galaxy. The Resilience emerged from its final faster-than-light jump into the Harmonex system. The Council capital planet glowed purple and blue beneath them, surrounded by a dense network of orbital stations and defense platforms. Active camouflage. Holding, Lieutenant Jackson reported from his station. To their sensors, we appear to be a diplomatic vessel from the Zoral delegation. General Mattis studied the massive Council city that covered nearly a quarter of the planet below. Somewhere in that sprawling metropolis was the evidence they needed, proof that Ambassador Zulvex had manipulated the Council into war with humanity. Any sign we've been detected? Mattis asked. Lieutenant Commander Williams shook her head. Their orbital traffic control just assigned us a standard approach vector. They suspect nothing. The plan was audacious but simple. They would land at the diplomatic port using their disguise. A small team led by Major Rodriguez would infiltrate the Council archives, while Captain Reeves made contact with their allies in the Resistance. Meanwhile, the ship would be ready for immediate departure. As they descended through Harmonix's atmosphere, Mattis addressed the crew one final time. Whatever happens today will determine the future of humanity among the stars. If we succeed, we end this war. If we fail, Earth must be ready for the Council's full retribution. The Resilience landed smoothly at the diplomatic docking station. Rodriguez and his team, disguised using holographic technology that made them appear as members of Council species, departed for the archives. Captain Reeves slipped away to meet her contacts. Mattis remained on the ship with Williams and Jackson, ready to coordinate a rapid escape if needed. Hours passed with tense silence on the bridge. Major Rodriguez reports they've reached the archive complex, Jackson finally announced. They're bypassing security now. At that same moment, alarms began blaring across the landing pad. Council security forces surrounded the Resilience, their weapons aimed at the ship. "We've been compromised," Williams said urgently. "Security override in progress on our docking clamps." Mattis made a quick decision. "Jackson, can you still transmit to Earth?" "Yes, sir. Quantum communicator is still functional." "Inform Earth. Defense Command that we may need to activate Protocol Omega." Protocol Omega was their contingency plan. If the mission failed, Earth would launch simultaneous attacks on all Council military installations within range, a last desperate attempt to buy time. "Sir," Williams interrupted. "Incoming transmission from within the Council chambers." The main screen activated, showing Captain Reeves. Behind her stood representatives of at least 10 Council species, including Krell-Vor. "General," Reeves said, her voice tight with urgency. "Change of plans. Our allies moved faster than expected. The full Council has convened an emergency session. They're demanding your presence." This wasn't part of the plan, but Mattis recognized an opportunity when he saw one. "Tell Rodriguez to continue his mission. Williams, Jackson, you're with me." Council security escorted them from the ship, not as prisoners but as diplomatic guests under heavy guard. They were brought to an enormous circular chamber where hundreds of representatives from all 17 Council species sat in tiered seats. Ambassador Zulvex stood at the central podium, his blue skin darkened with rage. "This is an outrage. These humans infiltrated our capital. This proves their treacherous nature." An elder council member raised a hand for silence. "General James Mattis of Earth, you have violated our sovereignty by coming here. What do you have to say?" Mattis stepped forward calmly. "We came to present evidence that this war was based on lies. Ambassador Zulvex deliberately manipulated footage of our rescue attempt to make it appear we tortured your crash survivors." Murmurs spread through the chamber as Mattis continued. "Humanity never wanted war. We sought only peaceful contact with the galactic community." Zulvex slammed his hand on the podium. "Lies. These humans are dangerous primitives. Their violent nature makes them unfit to join the Council." "Then why alter the evidence?" Mattis asked simply. "If we are as you claim, why was deception necessary? To convince the Council?" Before Zulvex could respond, Major Rodriguez's voice came through Mattis's communicator. "Sir, we found it. Transmitting now." On the enormous screens around the Council chamber, unedited footage began to play. It showed the original rescue operation, with human medical teams working desperately to save the injured aliens. It showed Mattis giving orders to provide whatever care was needed. Then it showed Zulvex in his private chambers, ordering technicians to edit the footage, removing context and adding false translations. The chamber erupted in chaos. Representatives shouted questions and accusations at Zulvex, who stood speechless. Then defiant. "It was necessary," he finally shouted over the din. "Humans are unpredictable. Their history is filled with violence. They would destabilize everything we have built." Krell-Vor stepped forward. "I was one of the crash survivors. The humans saved our lives when they could have left us to die. Ambassador, Zolvex lied to this council, and millions have died because of it. The elder council member called for order. This is a grave accusation with evidence that cannot be ignored. We will recess to consider. There is nothing to consider. Zolvex suddenly drew a weapon from his robes and aimed it at Mattis. If the council is too weak to protect our way of life, I will do what must be done. Before he could fire, a blur of movement intercepted him. Krelvor tackled Zolvex to the ground, the weapon discharging harmlessly into the ceiling. Security forces quickly surrounded them, taking Zolvex into custody. The council chamber remained in shocked silence for several moments. The elder finally spoke again. General Mattis, the council must deliberate on these revelations. We request that you remain on Harmonex as our guest until we reach a decision. 3 days later, Mattis stood before the council again. This time the mood was somber, reflective. The council has voted, the elder announced. By a margin of 14 species to 3, we recognize that this war was initiated under false pretenses. We offer Earth a formal cessation of hostilities and reparations for the cities destroyed in our attack. It wasn't everything Mattis had hoped for, but it was a start. And Earth's status moving forward? Earth will be granted probationary membership in the Galactic Council, with full rights to be determined after a period of 50 years. This was the compromise reached between those who still fear human unpredictability and those who recognize your species' potential. Mattis accepted these terms. In the grand scheme of things, 50 years was nothing. Humanity had gone from near extinction to a seat at the galactic table in less than 6 months. 1 week later, the Resilience departed Harmonex, carrying not just Mattis and his team, but also the first group of council scientists and diplomats to officially visit Earth. As they prepared for the jump back to the Sol system, Captain Reeves joined Mattis on the observation deck. "Did you ever think we'd end up here when this all started?" she asked. Mattis looked out at the stars. "Honestly, no. I was just trying to keep Earth from being destroyed. And instead, you changed the galaxy." Mattis shook his head. "Not me. All of us. The Council feared human unpredictability, our ability to think differently. They were right to fear it, but wrong to try to exterminate us for it." As the Resilience jumped to faster-than-light speed, Mattis thought about the future awaiting humanity among the stars. They had much to learn from the Council species, but also much to teach them. The war that was meant to end humanity had instead secured its place in the galaxy, not through overwhelming force, but through courage, adaptability, and the uniquely human ability to turn disadvantage into opportunity. Humanity had faced its greatest challenge and emerged stronger than ever before. The stars, once impossibly distant, now lay within reach.